And now a testimonial from Sister Jenny. Go ahead.
Pastor Paul, Sister Elizabeth, I really want to just thank both of you. You two have been such a blessing to me and my family, which right now really only consists of me and my son Donnie. Over the past 7 years or so, you and this church have been there with me through some pretty tough times. When I got divorced, you and your associate pastors counseled with me, and when my husband refused to pay alimony, you helped us get food stamps. You let us use the church clothing bin so that my son would have new clothes to wear when school starts in the fall. And when I feel sad and like I'm gonna collapse, it does something for me to walk into this building. There's a spirit in the building that really is something special, like the Spirit of God in this place. And it makes me feel like I can go another day. It's been really great to sit here and listen to the testimonials that church members have delivered in response to your sermon. They have said some really beautiful things. And, you know, I've been thinking a lot about the sermon you preached, and I think about what you said about this church and the walls of the church, how we've built up walls, how we've cut ourselves off from the world, and what you said about distance and communication, and what you said about hell, how the Bible says in a lot of ways that there is no hell and that through Christ all are saved. And yes, a lot of it makes sense. It makes me really sad that people left this church because of what you preached. Some of those who left are really close friends of mine. Those friends, I feel like they all look at me differently than they used to look at me. I call them up and I ask them if they want to get coffee with me, and they don't. They're busy, and before they hang up, they say they're praying for me like there was something wrong with me.
I'm sorry to hear that, Sister Jenny.
And it makes me feel judged and bad, and I think this is what you were trying to fix with your sermon, but in some ways it made it worse. I don't know how to respond to them when they ask me questions that I don't know the answer to. A lot of us are getting asked a lot of the same questions from the people who left and went to the new church Brother Joshua started. They point out Bible verses where it doesn't sound like hell is just a trash dump. Like, for example, there's one where Jesus talks about your soul being burned in the thing you're calling a trash dump. And it makes me wonder, if it's a real trash dump, how can it burn a human soul? It's as if you have a choice about how to read it. And then this guy I was seeing, a guy I met last November in the singles group, just last week, he left and went to Brother Joshua's new church. He's been asking a lot of questions. I try to defend you when he asks me about it. He says things like, well, if there's no punishment, why should we be good? And I say we are good because we know that's right, because if we were just being good because we were scared of getting in trouble, well, then that's not really being good. And then he says, but if there's no punishment for being a sinner, isn't that a slap in the face to those who are good? But then I'm like, that's not our problem, worrying about whether or not people are punished.
I think that's a very good answer, Jenny.
And then the guy, he asked me, what about someone like Hitler? If there's no hell, then what about him? Where does he go? That's a real question. I'm looking for an answer.
You see, if all are saved through Christ, then so is Hitler. So must even he be. Hitler is in heaven. The thief on the cross next to Jesus is also in heaven, and Hitler is in heaven. And everyone in between and everyone who comes after.
See, now that's hard to swallow, I think.
If there's no hell...
Can't he go nowhere?
But then, how do we figure out where the line is? How do we draw that line?
But the way you're talking about it makes it sound like God doesn't even draw lines.
No, yeah, I don't think he does, but, I mean, think about it. Wouldn't that be heaven?
No.
A place where all the awful things on earth are gone, where the wrong one has done can be washed away. Isn't that heaven? Wouldn't you want that too? No matter what you've done, it can all be washed away.
I can't imagine it, that heaven, and if I can't imagine it, then I can't believe in it. And if I can't believe in heaven, then that makes me feel lonely and scared.
But why?
Why what?
I don't understand your need to... Please, don't take this the wrong way, but I don't understand why heaven should be imaginable. I would be disappointed if heaven were imaginable, because what I can imagine is pretty dull. It's pretty imaginable. I want the heaven that my mind can't fathom, that is better than what my human brain can handle. I want a God who doesn't think like a man, who isn't as simple-minded as I am, who is, in a way, unearthly and inhuman. Because I'd feel pretty sad and I'd feel pretty lonely if God were so imaginable. You see? So my advice to you is to be patient, to sit with it, to pray, and to have an open heart. And the understanding will come. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Sister Jenny.
But I'm going to go back to reading. One other thing I don't understand. Another thing the guy I was seeing said to me. And I didn't like that he said this, but it stuck with me. And it left me wondering why you did this just after the church paid off its debt. It just seems that he said he thought the timing seemed a little too convenient, that if you had done this before the church was paid off and people had left, then you'd be in a really bad spot. And he says he feels taken advantage of. And he feels like you took our money.
No.
And he wanted you to know why you did what you did when you did it, because he thinks that what you said about hell couldn't be something that just occurred to you, that you must have known for a long time that hell is Greek for trash dump, that you didn't just figure that out, which means you had this thought but had been preaching something different, which to me seems like lying, I'm sorry to say. And then you suddenly decided that once the church was paid off, you could risk losing the money and tell us what you really thought. Is that it?
I don't feel like I ever talked much about hell in my sermons.
Because you never believed in it in the first place?
I had questions. I had doubts about it.
So why didn't you tell us that earlier?
What would I have said?
That you're not certain about certain things we believe.
Would that have made you feel better? To hear me come up here and say that I don't know?
I just can't help but feel used. Paul, I give 20% a week. I go over. I don't give the minimum 10%. I have food stamps. I take clothes out of the clothing bin because I go above and beyond to give to God and this church because it's so important to me. And me and my son have had to do without a lot because of it.